Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
What's up, Doom Nation? We are back once again, and you are listening to the Two Doom Men podcast. As always, it's Skaggs and the Captain, and we have a special guest today. Skaggs, you want to introduce our Patriot podcast, buddy?
Yes, so I'm going to refer to her as the first lady of the Patriot podcast network. We are joined by Deplorable Janet. How are you today?
I am fantastic. And thank you so much for allowing the first lady on your show today.
Oh, we're honored.
Yeah,
I got to say shout out to Janet because, we always talk on the show about the group chat between the Patriot podcast group. And it is a brutal war zone of, suck my, and you faggot this and blah, blah, blah. And Janet's in there just throwing insults, taking them, laughing away, loving every minute of it. So we're super excited to have you on.
Yeah, I am not easily offended by anything or anyone. So there you go.
Yeah, well, that's definitely. Why you found a home.
It takes a tough woman to be in a group chat with like 20 men that are just slinging insults at each other. I think even I woke up this morning and saw, James Curry made ribs yesterday and sent a picture. And Alan was like, your ribs fucking suck or something. Just like pointlessly cruel to him for no reason. And that's what really goes on. The FBI thinks we're planning insurrection and terrorism. We're really just slinging insults about each other's ribs, barbecue ribs at each other. So yeah, man. So let's start here. Janet, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, where do you come from? What did you do? What got you into podcasting? And, led us to this whole community here now.
That is a lot. I host Deplorable Nation podcast that's on every podcast platform. And the reason why I started doing that back in the day, I'm very non-PC. I'm very not quiet about things. And so how I got my start was Bob from No Mercy. Him and I are really good friends. And he said, we should start doing Periscopes together. And I don't know if you guys know what Periscope is. That was back before they had Facebook Live and Instagram Live and all that. It was Periscope. And so we started out doing the Periscopes. And then from there, it morphed into me being part of the No Mercy podcast crew. And then I was like, you know what? I have so much to say literally all the time. I'm just going to start my own. So background on me, I always worked in the medical industry. I have done literally everything in there. I was an autopsy assistant, did home health care, retired nurse, taught medical school from there, done billing, coding, you name it, everything under the sun. I started out initially I got a business degree first, and I was like, oh my God, I hate this. Like, crunching numbers to me is not my idea of a good day. And so I was like, oh my God, I hate this. Why the hell did I ever go to school for this? And so after that, that's when I decided to go to nursing school and take it from there with the medical career. So retired now from everything. So now I just sit on my ass at home and
talk shit.
Do important shit at home.
Yeah, it's always interesting to hear the stories of people, how they gotten involved in podcasting. And I've said it a bunch of times. I feel like when did you start your podcast, Janet?
Oh boy, it has been almost 2 years now.
So I have said, if you could see a chart of how many podcasts exist, right around 2020, there was just a significant increase.
Yeah,
right around
everything jumped.
Yes, and I love it. I think it's great. I listen to so many different podcasts.
I do too.
All the time, trying to get different people's perspectives and whatnot. And really, like COVID and the whole COVID tyranny really just sparked people to be angry and want to just vent their frustrations and talk about things and whatnot. And it's like James Curry says, right? It's death by 1,000 cuts. And Janet and us were one of those thousands of cuts. So,
and you know what? I think it's fantastic though, because even though like the numbers jumped and there's so many podcasts out there now and so many different people and different opinions about stuff, I think it's amazing because during that time when they thought, the powers that be were going to crush us basically, and crush everyone's will to survive and stuff, I think it had the complete opposite effect because people were able to be at home and looking things up and listening to more shows. And that's when people found their voice, because a lot of the people that I know that run in my little podcast circle as well, they all started theirs at the same time. And they were like, it was a inspiration listening to you and talking to you every day. Like, you helped me find my voice, which I love that, because everybody's got their own opinions on things.
Definitely. Yeah, that is interesting. We've had that too, Cap. How you doing over there, Cap? You got your
can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, cool.
Have us on the
Yeah.
We've
I
had
switched
that too,
settings.
definitely.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, Jen, I wanted to ask you, how did you get involved with Patriot Podcast Network? So who was like first from the group that reached out, or were you going on other people's shows? Because I mean, we all kind of came together throughout time, but we all popped on to different shows. We did work with Alan, and we did work with We the People and Sergeant Samurai, all before the Patriot Podcast Network
For us, it was actually originally the Orange Man podcast.
Yeah. We still haven't done anything with them.
We still haven't had a chance, but we used to like shoot the shit with them over text, over messages, and they referred us to Alan. And that's around when Alan was starting to build the Patriot Podcast Network. So
and for me, it was Catalyst, because Catalyst is one of my very good friends, and he reached out and he's like, I'm really trying to get you involved with this, and he's like, I don't want you to get offended though, because it's like all guys right now. It's all guys, and I'm like, seriously, like not a problem for me, and don't take this the wrong way. And oh my gosh, I hope your listeners do not get offended at this. But all of my very best friends are guys, because women have so much baggage and so much drama. And I'm just like, I fit in better with the guys. And the funniest thing, when Bob first contacted me about coming on No Mercy, he's like, I don't know, like Tommy's really uncomfortable because he's afraid that you're going to get super offended. And so we have to do this pre-call first. And within like the first 5 minutes, he's like, oh, Jesus, you are literally worse than the guys. And I'm like, yes.
That's so funny. I don't think what you said is controversial in any aspect either. I mean, like, Chris, I'm sure you could speak to it too. How many women in your life do you know are just get along better with the group of guys than they do with the group of girls?
Yeah.
Most women probably, for the most part, men, we're pretty simple, If we get mad at each other, we get to fisticuff and then we shake hands.
Exactly.
And we keep it moving. We don't threaten to poison each other, years down the road or something like that.
Yeah. Sleep with each other's husbands on, the night before their wedding.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing is, I play better with guys, I guess, because I have that same kind of personality. I don't like to get hung up on stuff. I don't hold on to things, and I don't get butt hurt. So,
So let me ask you a question, because now I don't know why I randomly thought of this, but I'm thinking all the way back to 2016. Now I'm sure you're familiar with the tape and the comment that former President Trump made, right?
Yeah.
Where he was like, talking about some hostess or something of a show, and how he, just basically grabs him by the pussy. Right. And there was this outrage, and President Trump had said, it's like, there's just kind of locker room talk. And I remember at the time, a lot of people were like, no, that's not locker room talk. That's not locker room talk. No, that's not what. And like most men were like looking around, it's like, no, like it is.
That's exactly what happened.
Pretty much it is.
What did you think about that? And like, as a woman, did that offend you in any way?
Did that offend me? Absolutely not. That did not offend me in the least. And honest to God, if people are being 100% honest with themselves, if females are being honest, your conversations are worse than dudes' conversations. I swear to God. I mean, they literally talk about your dick size all the time and the whole 9 yards and how you bang. And yeah, so the whole pussy comment does not offend me. No.
Yeah,
amazing.
Not the first time I've heard that from a woman either.
Yeah. So follow-up question. What does, like, where's the line? Like, what have you seen in the past few years that you're like, I'm offended? If you have been, you know.
It takes a hell of a lot to offend me. Nothing
This is why you fit in.
Yeah, nothing anybody says offends me. Nothing anybody does offends me because everybody's like each your own stuff. The only thing I will say that bothers me is the trans shit. I just am not on board with that.
Right.
But funny story. Back in my younger years, I was dating this guy and you know, his mom like hooked us up. I worked with her at the hospital and it was like, oh, my son, you really like him. He's really sweet, whatever. And so we went out on a couple of dates and then like he breaks it off. And then I find out through the grapevine that he was trying to date me to see if he was straight or not. And that he was actually a drag queen performer.
That's
wow.
Fucked up.
So,
He's using you. Yeah.
I'm just going to say a little tiny blow to the ego because I feel like I turned a guy gay. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I knew a kid in high school who turned his high school girlfriend into a lesbian, and that weighed on him for a while.
I was just like, really? Okay, then, yeah.
I don't know, Janet. I doubt it. He is a drag queen after all. I was going to say he probably has some demons going on there. So I'm not going to lay the blame all at your feet, to be honest with you. I'd say honestly, for me too, Cap. It's an interesting question.
What really offends you?
Nothing really offends me, but I'd say what offends me. I'm not going to say trans people offend me. They don't. I don't really care what you do with your life. It's the movement. It's in my opinion, what offends me is like the with the children, right? And the puberty blockers and the transition. Like if you watch Matt Walsh's "What Is a Woman," or even if you look at like Libs of TikTok, the account, like that shit fucking triggers me all the time. All the videos that Libs of TikTok puts out of just teachers talking about what they're doing to the kids. That's beyond. This is because kids can't consent, right? That's ultimately what it has nothing to do even with gender or trans or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. Right. Kids can't consent. So when people are nefariously behaving with children, that pisses me the fuck off.
Well, and the thing to me is too, and you know, people's behavior is not the issue for me. It's the whole making it normal. Normalizing the behavior and normalizing it in performers in churches and
which you know that I was offended
kindergarten and you know stuff like that, and like every movie now has to have like that kind of thing in it and making it seem like it's like 90% of the population. It is not. So
it's interesting. I guess you could say that's kind of the culture war going on, right? Coming a lot from like the libertarian community. Also, there's always like a split in the libertarian community about, oh, well, you know, you have to just accept people for like what they are and encourage them to do what they want. And a lot of like the new libertarian, like the Mises guys have been like, well, that has nothing to do with libertarianism, right? Like there's nothing in libertarianism that says we have to promote transgenderism. It has nothing to do with one another. It's you could, if you're a consenting adult and you want to live a certain way, fine, whatever. But that doesn't mean you have to go above and beyond and now promote your lifestyle. I'm not doing anything against you, but I don't have to promote it either.
Right.
And also the defense of it. You know, like we've said in past shows, we have gay friends and we don't really, you know, the whole community, the whole idea doesn't bother. There's questions. There's a lot of whys. How did you come to this decision?
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. That comes from my end. But then like, when you take something like the term groomer and make it into like a racial slur for the gay community, when the gay community is like, whoa, no, we don't want to be called groomers, but like we also don't want groomers in our community. And like, no, it's now a hate term. Or where Biden passed that thing with where you don't get money for school lunches if your school doesn't have some LGBTQ agenda or some shit like that. What are we doing this for? Or just the other day, Obi-Wan Kenobi's bisexual. His story is over. And now all of a sudden he needs to be bisexual. Would
Well,
just leave it
yes,
alone?
because in Hollywood, they cannot come up with any new concepts for
Yes.
any new movies. It's constantly remake, rework, and redo what has already been done
Yes.
for literally ages. I mean, you know, how many different movies like The Fast and the Furious are you going to have, and
Oh my
the whole
God,
nine
yes.
yards? I mean, it's just
Yep.
it's like a never ending saga,
Bad
I
dream.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
It-
it's
and
true.
you know, coming out of, if you look at Hollywood and everything they've created, oh, we support the LGBT community, we support them, we support them. Then just make a new goddamn character. Make a
Mhm.
new little universe to represent what you
Right.
want to represent. But there's nothing new. We have to just take and change the old. But
Right.
Buzz Lightyear flopped the whole movie. They had a complete opportunity to revamp Toy Story with the individual characters' origin stories. And I get it, it's, you know, wash, rinse, repeat kind of, but it was a new untold story. And you flopped it because you had to play around. We had
Right.
Buzz Lightyear was a effing toy. And now all of a sudden we got this crap. I just a toy that came to life, you know, like
Well, and here's the thing is what I see coming since like the Marvel stuff is huge and whatever. Literally every single one of those characters, they're going to redo a movie where they're all LGBTQ
Yeah.
P plus Z, whatever it is today.
A, B, C, D, E,
Yes.
F, G.
But and that's what's going to happen because conceptually wise, they don't have creative reign anymore to do anything new. So
Yeah,
I can
it's
totally
true.
see the Marvel movies going into
Yeah,
the
I-
And,
garbage.
well, yeah,
I
this
think
is
we're
what I
going
was
to
saying
see
the
the
other day.
death of Disney in our
Yeah.
lifetime.
That's
Real
what
soon.
I was saying to you guys the other
Yeah.
day, Cap. Like all the new MC, not all of it, right? I say like the last really good MCU movie was not that long ago. Spider-Man. It was a great movie, but a lot of the new stuff is all around the idea of like, you know, the woman is like replacing the male superhero, like She-Hulk, right? Like She-Hulk is about to come out, and if you
Right.
look at the trailer for that, it's like, okay, well, here's a woman. She's smarter than the previous Hulk. She's better than the previous Hulk. She demeans him in the trailer. Like it's
Of
all
course.
it's all a woman is better at taking the role that the man had, and that's because women are just better at everything, or LGBTQ or whatever. Wash, rinse, and
Right.
repeat. It's like the guy who used to do it sucks, is evil, is bad. You know, Han Solo, Luke Skywalker. It doesn't matter what
Right.
the character is. They've trashed all of them over the past
And
eight,
I'm just
7, 8
I'm
years.
just gonna throw this out there. Having said what I said about females earlier, okay, and with that whole push that to demonize men and tearing down men and belittle them, and you know, like women are better and all that stuff. I am just gonna say, if women ran everything, holy crap, would things be a nightmare? Yes, some shit might get done right the first time. However, with all of the drama and the cattiness and the emotions, because females are very emotional, that would be a living nightmare.
Mhm.
Absolute nightmare. Oh my God, China, can you believe what they said about us? Oh my God. Yeah, no, it would be a disaster. I'm not on the women for president train because I think that's a very
Okay.
bad idea. Yeah.
Again, I feel like just society in general is moving away from like the content of your character, right?
Right.
It's all about now, what do you look like? That's what's the most important
Right.
thing. And it's moving
What
away
box
from,
do you check?
Yeah.
right. It's moving away
Exactly.
from what most of us were raised on, right? Which is like Martin Luther King's vision of like, you judge someone based on the content of the character, not the color of their skin or
Exactly.
whatever they look like. Everything is moving away from that, and everything is pointing in the opposite direction. If you are a white male, you're now the devil. Right. And if
Right.
you're an LGBTQ person, you're the best, you're better than everybody ever. That doesn't mean you can't be better than someone or not, right? Because each person is
Right.
individual and different. But that's why this shit is also failing. Like
Mhm.
the new stuff. It's right because people go and watch people are gonna go and watch She-Hulk, and they're gonna smell that right away. They're gonna be like, oh my God, this is just awful.
You know
Like
what's
they're gonna smell the wokeism right through it.
you know what's hilarious though, thinking about what I just said about how I'm not a fan of putting a female in charge. Look at our vice president, who is
She's a
like,
mess.
I am Kamala Harris, your vice president. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm sitting at a table in a blue suit. And what part of substance did you bring to the table in your blue suit when you just said that? I mean, I'm curious, because I'm a she, her, I'm a fuck you, I don't care, in a black shirt sitting here with actual intellectual conversation skills. So, yeah, I'm not sure what the whole labeling with the pronouns and the,
Virtue signaling.
I have a theory
Yeah.
on that, but Cap, what did you think about that actually?
It's amazing that there is somebody who does her PR and her script writing
Right.
and is like, this is a good idea how to start a meeting by giving us your pronouns and telling us what color suit you're wearing. She is an absolute train wreck. I mean, she's the only thing that wants me to keep Biden in office. And I'm at the point after Jill Biden with her tacos, after Kamala with her she and her, after Joe Biden butchering every speech he's ever had. I'm willing to let Hunter Biden do some crack and get up on the national stage and start spewing.
I want to hear
shit.
from him too. I'm with you.
Because it's got to be better than all this. It's got to be better. I mean, I know they took that scene and the internet blew it up. So I don't even really know what her meeting was about. So maybe she did put some content in there. But you're starting off on the wrong foot.
Mhm.
You're coming to the table virtue signaling, and you think like that matters. Like if you were a businessman, let's take politics out of it, or a businesswoman, and showed up to the important board meeting, and you have your proposal, and Kamala goes first, and she goes, "I'm her, she, and I'm wearing a blue suit, and my business proposal is we start, telling everybody what our pronouns are, and this and that, blah blah blah." And then somebody else comes to the table and they're like, "Hi, my name's Chris, and my business proposal is on this PowerPoint presentation. And here's a graph of our growth from last year. And if we apply these measures, this is our growth for next year." Who do you think's gonna win? You know what I'm saying?
In today's world, probably the virtue signaler, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Hey, now I just want to say she did give a very important speech recently about time. Because there's time every day and time, and we go through time
tomorrow.
Yeah. So, I'm glad she brought that to our attention because I wasn't sure that existed. So at least I do now.
Yeah.
Let me give you guys my perspective and a conversation I had with my wife about this video too. This is actually not the first time I've seen something like this occur. I remember like Microsoft was doing some sort of product demonstration, right? And all of their people, the multiple people in the video, they all did the exact same thing. And this is my name, this is what I'm wearing, this is my pronouns, blah, 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 blah. So I was showing my wife this video the other day, and I was like, doesn't that remind you of anything? And she's like, what? I'm like, it's like saying grace before a meal. I'm like, you sit around at the table and you say, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, thank you, may God, for, this bounty, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, this woke shit is a religion. And they now literally have like grace, they say, before they have a meeting or
right.
a meal or whatever. I was telling this to my wife. My wife's like, no, she's like, it's just retarded. It's you're just looking too much into it, etc. I don't know. This is the way I see the woke ideology. It's a form of religion, or it's at least religious like behavior that's attempting to replace normal religious behavior.
Yeah.
Like if you went back in time to 1955, I guarantee you there was some boardroom somewhere where a bunch of 55-year-old male white CEOs sat down around that table and they said in the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, and them. They said like an hour farther before they got to their meeting. Now, 50 years later, 60 years later, whatever it is, it's just a different sort of thing, but it's still religious in its behavior. That's not in my opinion. I don't know if you guys think I'm crazy. Let me know.
No, I don't think it's crazy. I think it's a stretch for grace, but like anything else, like with religion, you have to put in work. have to put in work to be religious. You got to put in the work to go to church, say the prayers, study the Bible, learn about the saints, this, that, and the next. And you got to put in the same type of work to be woke and to be virtuous. You know, when super religious people, they interject God into every conversation. And, you know, you talk to somebody who's religious and you tell them, oh, well, you know, I got my new truck and it's great. And they're like, oh, praise God. But, you know, gas is going up, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, you know, God only gives us the challenges that we can handle. They are putting in the work to interject their views into it, just as the woke are putting they're working hard to put their views into it. So there is similarities to it.
What do you think,
Agreed.
Janet?
Yeah, and I completely agree. To me, it's very cultish behavior, and you have to be up on the cultism, wokeism of the day. And so you have to be completely in tune with what words you can and cannot say anymore, and what new words that you make up to replace old words. Because you remember when we went through that whole bae thing, you can't say boyfriend or girlfriend, it's bae.
Bae, yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I used to call my girlfriend Bae when I was younger.
I didn't even know that was, because I would have never used it if I knew that. It's the same Bae.
And see, for me, it's funny because like I am definitely older. I'm in my 50s. And so seeing the progression of how things have gone like through the years, and how just out of hand it is as far as language goes, and what things you have to be offended by now. And to me, I'm the kind of person, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, like put on your big girl pants and go on with your day. I mean, if somebody says something that offends you emotionally, is it really going to matter in the grand scheme of things on a daily basis how you live your life? The answer to that should be no. And if it is yes, then you got a lot of self-work to do.
I love so much of what you just said. You started off by saying the day-to-day of it, which is being woke has got to be the hardest cult to be in.
Exhausting.
It changes
daily,
by the hour. Forget day to day. And you also said something like, if someone says something and they offend you, does it really matter in the grand scheme of things? I got into this heated debate with someone at the gym one day. It was right after a different Texas shooting took place, maybe like a year ago. Second Amendment, debate comes up and all this stuff. And I'm saying my parts, he's saying his parts, and he's like, oh, I can't believe you said that. It's so offensive. And he was like, I can't believe you. I was like, bro, you have to understand something. After I leave this gym, I'm never going to remember who you are. I remember the conversation,
right?
But I've been back to that gym hundreds of times, dozens and dozens of times. I don't know if I ever saw him again or not, because I truly, other than the fact that he was a tall man with dark hair, I don't know what his fucking pronouns were. I couldn't tell you who this guy is.
You didn't ask? Damn it.
No, that's why he was so offended. But that's, people can't, people got to let things go. Just, right. Oh, you saw a Trump bumper sticker. Okay, well, now go to work and do what you got to do. It's a bumper sticker.
See, you can't go to work and have the workplace be normal anymore, because they have codified our population over the last generation. And so you have to have safe spaces, and you have to do all this PC culture, and you have to consider, everybody's religion and what words you can say and the whole 9 yards. For fuck's sakes, you are here to do a job. You are not here to worry about anything else outside of what your given position is. You're not that's not what your job is. And so like everyone's emotions and feelings and stuff have no place in the workplace as far as I'm concerned.
I think that's one of the many factors as to why we're seeing economic downturn, right? I mean, there's many factors. It's so complicated, right?
Yeah.
But that's one of them, right? Like we said it recently, I think when we were at the last class, how there's like definitely people in positions where they shouldn't be.
No.
That was due to the pandemic, but definitely there's people in positions that they shouldn't be because like they're just towing the woke line and they suck
the Biden administration
at their job, right? Correct, right? Like they have to Biden administration, right? They're not really qualified; they're just towing the line, right? So they got to
checking boxes,
right?
I remember when at the company I was working at in the city, the day Trump won in 2016, the next day for when Hillary gave her speech to concede, we all stopped working. We sat around the TVs. They made us watch it. And you could see all the Republicans in the back, like, goodbye, bitch. And people were crying. Oh, no, screaming, crying. They let us all take an extra hour for lunch, an extra hour across an entire company. People did not have to work. They turned a conference room into a safe space. And for a week straight, instead of playing the news on all the TVs and all the stuff, it was 24/7, the Puppies and Kittens channel.
I remember after that, I took the new, like this is back when I was living in the Bronx. I took the bus, like the New York City Transit bus, like the day after the election. Wow, you could hear a pin drop. Like it was just in the air in New York City. Like people were like terrified or just so upset that this occurred that like no one was even interacting with each other. It was violence. It was bizarre, dude.
I was battling people. A college friend of mine was so offended that I was a Trump supporter that so remember when Trump first got elected, like day one, people were like, that's it. Women don't have rights anymore. We're going to enslave the black community again. Like they thought like the most insane stuff was going to take place. And this girl literally argued with me. Well, let's see how you like it when you have a daughter and they rape her. I'm like, wow, what are you even talking about? Like, she's like, women don't have rights anymore. I was like, are you out of your fucking, you're a smart individual. I went to school with you. Like,
Hey, let me clarify this just to be sure I've got this. Are you talking about the pedophiles?
That run the
raping
country
my
now?
daughter or whatever. Yeah, sorry, my daughter. I do have a daughter. But that's the whole thing is the constant fear porn. And I have never in my life seen as much fear porn and mind manipulation as what we have going on modern day. I mean, like
that's because of this right here.
Cold, yes. The common cold, which we've rebranded into something else, that's going to kill you. And, you know, your government and, oh my God, you'll never be able to have an abortion again. And just all this just crazy shit. And I don't understand it, but I don't blame people who don't see things that are right in front of their face. And the reason why I say that is because we are all on a different timeline, knowledge-wise. And so what my knowledge base is not the same as, you know, what you guys are. And people are always going to be at a different process on their learning curve as to what they need to know when they need to know it. And so I don't understand how people can be that far behind. But at the same time, I also get it because of the constant manipulation and indoctrination through, you know, school, through work, because, you know, every big employer now has their workplace sensitivity department.
board,
yeah.
It's hard. Yeah, we're not those people, right? So we can't necessarily know 100%. But
Right.
it's the thing is too, as I've said, I think on the show a bunch of times, like propaganda is effective. It always has been.
Right.
It always will be.
Right.
And it's 24/7, like all the
Right.
time, propaganda. So the three of us might be red pilled, right? Like it doesn't work on us, but not everybody is. Not everybody has the time. Not everybody's that interested in it. So they just go along with their life and they believe whatever the tube tells them or Joe Biden says on the thing. And it's like, one thing I'm learning in the past couple of weeks is like one of the ways you get through to people like that is with just crazy shit. Like with what Alex Stein did a couple of weeks ago with AOC calling her big booty Latina. I really liked what he had to say because he's like,
I love Alex. He's so funny.
I love what he had to say. It's culture jamming. He's like, you could sit around and talk about like policy and why this is wrong and why this is right, and no one cares. He's like, but you could go and call AOC a big booty Latina. Now everybody's paying attention. Headlines. And you're making headlines, and you can maybe now make a point. Yeah.
So I completely understand what you were saying, Janet, with everybody's on their own timeline. The only thing I disagree is I do blame those people. I do blame the people who've had their head in the sand and up their ass because of that. And to Skaggs' point, which is 100% correct, propaganda is effective. If this was around in World War II, there would have been a lot more fear mongering going on. But now it's around today. We are so distracted, and people are so distracted with the bullshit garbage of reality TV and social media, this and that, that it gave the government, the establishment, the elite, this open and free space to work and do as they please right in front of our faces. And everybody just sat there like this and went, yeah, okay, I'm going to send a text now. Okay. And it takes somebody like Stein to do something stupid to make the headlines to get you to listen.
But you know what it is too, though. And the reason why I feel the way I do is because they have throughout history since it began, all of the psychological experiments in the psychology departments at universities, literally all around the world, use fear, intimidation, and manipulation to foster outcomes. They've been doing this for a very, very long time. And, even with the starting of the Tavistock Institute, the reason why it actually was begun was because they wanted to see how much fear and the manipulation that they could instill in the soldiers to get them to a breaking point. It's the same thing with psychology experiments here. And that's why I said it's not really people's fault, because they're getting it literally from all sides. It's in the churches now, it's in the schools, it's in workplace. It is literally anything and everything that you do. And for me, those, like, some people have to be on their phone for work or, whatever device, things like that. You'll get constant bombardment and news stories that pop up throughout the day, right? And so we are such an instant gratification society, right? That we want an immediate fix. And so instead of taking the time to research and to learn things, they read a headline that pops up on their phone that's like, here, this jabber is going to cure all your problems, or, whatever. And it's time-based, number one, because people don't have time because they're overworked, overstressed, whatever. But two, because we are so lazy, and you can't force someone to have knowledge.
That's true. Yeah.
You can't force the knowledge on people. And that's why I said everybody's on their own timeline for a reason, because when you hear something new, like, I don't know about you guys' background, but like a lot of people, when they first wake up to things and something that they thought was right, they find out is not, they have to basically go through like a death their
Mhm.
own
their ego.
psyche, their
Yes.
own
Yeah.
personality, right? And that's really hard for a lot of people. And
A lot
I
of people
had
will just outright reject too. Like they'll
yeah,
just
absolutely,
reject
Instead
that.
of
Yeah.
instead of
because it's
having their
really
ego
hard.
die.
Yeah.
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 And I had a really good friend that said it best. It is better for us to live through the soul than to live through the ego. But it is really hard for a lot of people to get to that point because you have to let go of your ego and let go of the fact that you're not as smart as what you thought you were.
Not in control.
Yeah. And that's why I said people's timeline is always going to be different. And I don't blame them because some people don't have the maturity to get to that knowledge base right now.
Yeah. 100%.
So question for you, Jenna, and then I know
Mhm.
we could get into some of the topics we wanted to talk about.
Mhm.
Do you see the tides turning? Are we winning? Do you see change? How do you feel about the the other side of all this, the fight to take back moral standards and the fight to take back society?
I think it's a double-edged sword, honestly, because I think there are a lot more people that are waking up to what the government's doing, what the WEF has planned for us, the continual barrage coming from the WHO for all of the pandemics that are in the pipeline to come in the future. And it's basically rebranding and renaming things that have existed for a very long time. And so I think people are waking up to a lot of that stuff, but I think we're going to still have to go through a lot of difficulty and a lot of turmoil to get to the point where we can come out the other side, because with the economy, and then they're attacking food supply and supply chain issues, and literally everything under the sun that they're doing right now to destroy our quote unquote way of life. There's a lot of people waking up to that, but I think we're going to have a lot more shit that they have planned that we may not even know about. That's going to get dark.
Oh yeah, they're not going to just give up. And this is something I've said a million times on the show, right? It's like this shit never ends. Like the American Revolution was in 1776. Now 2022. Right. Like this shit is still going on.
Right.
All these years later, it never ends. It's always going to happen. There's always going to be some tyrannical people come along and think they know best and they want to rule. And then there's always going to be some revolutionaries who fight back. Always, forever. Right. As long as we're still human, this is going to occur. So
as long as the state finds a way, it always will.
This is why you should be the happy warrior, as Michael Malice says, right? It's because you just accept it. That's the way life is. There's not going to be any moment at the end of Return of the Jedi where Anakin, Yoda, and Obi-Wan are up there in the clouds waving to you, and you've won, right? Because there'll be a first order one day that will come back and try and reestablish the empire. So just accept it and fight. Yeah. So I think you could give us actually a pretty unique perspective here, because you do have some background in the medical industry. But I kind of want to talk a little bit about monkey pox, which is what we were just talking about, right? There's another fear tactic, and
I got a good theory about what's going on with some monkey pox shit.
Occurring, over the weekend or over the past week, San Francisco declared a state of emergency. New York City declared a state of emergency. Now
so
New York
did
State.
Illinois today.
Okay, there you go. So
Governor Pritzker in Illinois. Yep.
Governor Hochul,
shock.
The entire state now of New York, and it's no little thing, right? New York there's millions and millions of people live in New York, right? So I kind of want to start where I usually always start with one of these topics, with a news article, which I will read, Captain. So bear with me. And this one's actually interesting, right? Because this is the Washington Post; they're the worst, and this is an opinion piece by Benjamin Ryan, and I can't believe they even allowed this on the Washington Post. But it's titled "You Are Being Misled About Monkeypox." And Benjamin goes on to say, countless public health experts have uttered statements such as, "This is in the past 2 months. Members of the media and politicians have parroted the message ad nauseum without stopping to dissect what it implies or obscures. This broad strokes maxim that everyone on earth is susceptible to this troubling viral infection might be factual on its surface, but it is so egregiously misleading it amounts to misinformation. Those who make such statements don't intend harm. On the contrary, leaders of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the World Health Organization, this is where we'll probably disagree with them, but and also repeat them because they commendably want to combat the societal stigma faced by gay and bisexual men who have been disproportionately impacted by monkeypox. They know that stigma harms public health, including by discouraging infectious disease testing, and they don't want the rest of the public to be complacent in the face of a potential new pandemic. But as these public health experts know well, epidemiology is less concerned with whether someone could contract an infection. Instead, the much more vital questions focus on which groups of people are most likely to be exposed to a pathogen, to contract it, and why. In public health statistics, this is the study of relative risk. By reducing monkeypox risk to a simplistic binary equation, public health leaders are prioritizing fighting stigma over their duty to directly inform the public about the true contours and drivers of this global outbreak. In particular, they are failing to properly convey the seriousness of this burgeoning crisis to gay and bisexual men. Here is what we can discern from the data collected about monkeypox so far. This viral outbreak isn't just mostly occurring among men who have sex with men. The confirmed cases, at least to date, have consistently, almost entirely occurred among this demographic, which accounts for 96% or more of diagnoses where data are available. Per capita, the few monkeypox cases in women and children remain minuscule compared to the rate among gay and bisexual men. Of course, substantial transmission could always occur among other such groups, but researchers at the WHO and elsewhere have speculated that the monkeypox reproduction rate will likely remain significantly lower in such demographics, meaning the virus will most likely hit transmission dead ends among them than among gay and bisexual men. An uncomfortable truth, one documented in peer-reviewed papers, is that sexual behaviors and networks specific to gay and bisexual men have long made them more likely to acquire various sexually transmitted infections compared with heterosexual people, blah, 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 blah. Everyone knows that's true. It doesn't mean that they're bad or anything like that. HIV, etc. It's just, again, it's just a truth, right? So
this is
interesting article. What do you guys think? It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of some truth, and then a little bit of he's kind of a little bit pandering to wokeism.
It's interesting to see how all of a sudden the next new pandemic after the last pandemic only affects gay people, but in the woke culture we live in, we can't offend the gay community. So we as the WHO and the CDC and the administration and community leaders, we need to remember that we can't offend that community. So we have to lie to everybody and say that everybody could get monkeypox so we don't offend the gay community. That is some horse shit and a half. But I'm sure we'll get censored for this episode down the road. But that's
not yet. There's no monkeypox rules yet, I don't think.
Yeah,
at least
there will be. There will be.
It's going to be part of their misinformation governance board. Here's the thing about actual monkeypox. It is contagious slightly. However, don't lick monkeypox. Don't touch monkeypox and put it in your mouth, and then you should be fine.
Is monkeypox code word for butthole?
No. But yeah, here's a funny thing about that. Somebody posted a video from the CDC. Okay. It was side effects of the monkeypox, and it was this guy spraying shit out his ass all over a white tile wall behind it.
Oh no!
And I said, and so I had to comment, and I was like, so basically, it's like the human centipede, then. And he's like,
God.
He's like, what? And I said, oh my God, you've never seen that movie, have you? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, so the premise is like ass to mouth. I'm like, so. Yeah, and then they sew them all together and they just shit all over the wall. So, with that being said, yes, no, you should not lick the monkey starfish. How about that?
Name of the episode.
But, yeah,
Monkey starfish.
but you know, it's a it's been around for a long time, but this is all based on the premise, if you believe at all, which I don't, in germ theory. You have to believe in germ theory to believe that everyone on the planet is going to get infected with monkeypox or SARS or SPARS or whatever the shit is coming down the pipeline now. If you are a healthy individual and you take care of your internal environment, your own terrain, you are not going to get sick regardless of what it is. Unless, like I said, you're licking something, so you're ingesting it, because monkeypox is it's not an airborne contagion, which is another thing that came along when they invented germ theory, is words like pandemic and contagion. The reason why you see such an uptick in anything in our society is because look at the amount of processed foods that people ingest. And this being said as well, and this may be a thing for you guys, it may not be, because Chris said something earlier about the gym. Okay. And so how many people also are on supplementations for, going to the gym and working out and whatever. A lot of things that are put in those are also bioengineered, highly processed, and so it's not just the foods, but it's the chemicals that we use in our house for cleaners or laundry or whatever. It's literally everything. And so you are getting bombarded by everything in your life unless you have really, really clean living. You are more susceptible because your immune system is already compromised just from free radicals in the environment daily.
I try and tell my mother all the time. She's like, well, yeah, we'll just have some chicken. That's healthy. I'm like, you have to understand, the chicken your mother made for you back in 1960, whatever, is not the same chicken that
back
you're
in
going
my
to
day.
make. You know what I mean? Like, and also I saw another meme, because I follow a lot of health food stuff, and I try, for just whatever reason, for my body type. When I put on weight, I start eating way more fruits and vegetables and cutting out meat, and the weight comes right off me. It's what works. Portion control, whatever you want to say. Fruits and vegetables helps me lose weight. And the thing online said 99 years ago, we didn't have 99% of the diseases we have.
Correct.
And we also didn't have 99% of the foods we have.
Correct.
And it showed a grocery store today. There was no Doritos. There was no Lay's. There was no Mountain Dew. Regular Mountain Dew that like most of us drink at any given week. I know me and Cags don't really drink that much soda. It's banned in other countries. Not like a certain flavor, just Mountain Dew in general. Right. So a lot of that has to do with our food. There was even scientific studies done on mice that when a mouse is fed a processed American diet and exposed to sunlight, you get skin cancer. Everybody will tell you sunlight will give you skin cancer. That's because of the diet you're on. If you eat a well-balanced nutritional diet, the sun will actually help you fight off diseases and cancers and stuff.
But that's the thing is, and that's changed too. So not only did we see an uptick in quote disease, and contagions and all that shit, because of our diets and because of our daily stuff, but also think about the amount of propaganda that has been fed into our system where sunscreen is good, but the sun is bad. Sunscreen is a known carcinogen. The sun itself does not cause cancer. The sunscreen does. But they're so brilliant at their marketing for stuff. And just like A lot of the medications, they're poison, they're toxins, they have toxins in them. People that have thick blood or have had blood clots or whatever, they put them on warfarin. Warfarin is literally rat poison. If you have a heart issue, they initially right out the gate will put you, the very first thing they'll put you on is an ACE inhibitor. ACE inhibitors have snake venom in them.
I've heard of that before, yeah.
And so,
Probably
all
what my
of
father's
this,
taken.
all of this stuff is being fed into the system. And so it has nothing to do with bacteria or viruses. It has to do with the internal environment inside our body and what our state of health is. And that is why people get sick. It has nothing to do with anything else.
It's really interesting listening to you guys talk about this, because I'd go out on a limb here and say the three of us would be categorized as far right on the political spectrum,
yeah.
right? But everything we're talking about here is like a very
Normal.
classically liberal position.
Yeah.
Like, the food is not organic and it's bad and there's chemicals and whatnot. But it's the shit libs now who are pushing, more chemicals and everything.
Right.
I went to the grocery store last week because I usually go on Monday. So last Monday I went and I buy my fruits and vegetables. The apples, the light that was shining off these apples, they're starting to look like, remember when you go to your grandma's house and she's like, "Oh, Michael, no, that's wax. Don't eat the fruit on the table." They're starting to look like the wax stuff that you had in your grandma's house. These
gross.
things were shinier than some chrome rims I see.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a couple. I have two like, I guess they're hyperbolic, right? But I have two examples of how just food in this country is just awful. I have a family member who has an ulcer problem, right? Mm-hmm. And this family member goes to Italy quite often. Usually goes a couple months a year. And when he goes to Italy and he's there eating the food in Italy, like his ulcer problem pretty much goes away, right? But then when he comes back to America, his ulcer problem returns.
Correct.
Another person that I know from New Zealand, similar problem, lived in New Zealand, ate everything under the sun, no problem. Came to America, basically has to be vegan now. Can't eat anything else.
Correct.
He can't process it. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. I have one of my barbers, his grandmother lived in the Dominican Republic for, oh my God, well into her senior years. Smoked a pack of cigarettes and drank whiskey every single day. Mm-hmm. Never got sick, nothing. She's been in America. She's doing terrible. Her health has just plummeted. Why? Because she was eating real fruits and vegetables and meats. The cigarettes and the alcohol were nothing compared to the healthy diet she was on. Just
caveats,
yeah.
Right. And that's, and I hate to say this because people are going to think I'm insane. However, on the smoking front, not only was smoking used in, Eastern medicine and whatever for forever. Same thing with, Indian nations and whatnot, always had smoking as part of their rituals and stuff. Our bodies actually have nicotine protectors in there. It's called neuroprotectants. Nicotine is a neuroprotectant. And so it will actually help your body to curb effects from a lot of things that actually attack your neurological system or your nervous system.
Interesting. So yes, I don't know enough. I don't know enough about like the science behind cigarettes, but I can tell you, I would undoubtedly say that it is something to do with American cigarettes that makes them even worse for people. Like, if you sat around and rolled your own joint of like tobacco that you grew and then you smoked it, you'd probably be fine. But I mean, a couple times, man, Cap, like I haven't done this in a long time, but we go out drinking and I'd have a cigarette. Like this is a long time ago and I haven't done this in a long time. Boy, the next day I would feel awful, just coughing up a lung. I'd feel sick, awful. But then I will smoke on occasion. I partake in some marijuana. I feel completely fine the next day, even if I was drinking. Why? It's because they're different, right? And the marijuana is a little bit more naturally grown, was opposed to Marlboro's nicotine, menthol, cigarette. My God,
Some
is that
cannabis
fucked up.
is.
Yeah.
Some,
I was
yeah,
going
some.
to say, yeah, they're eventually going to start adding, if not already
Oh, yeah,
adding,
yeah.
well, you know, carcinogens and crap to marijuana.
course.
But I was going to say, yeah, when the Native Americans grew tobacco and smoked, I could see it being a medical herb that helps you.
Right.
Big tobacco is the problem that is poisoning us. Yeah.
Actually, I don't think it's big tobacco that's the problem. I think it is the people that have the regulation hand
Yep.
in things.
Yes, correct.
Because
the state, it always comes back to the state cap, always,
Yeah.
every time. Yeah.
100%. And so, you know, and that's the same literally for any system. Like me coming from the healthcare system, I can tell you now, I would never in a million years ever enter back into that unless it was to start my own place outside of government control, outside of regulation, that they could come to my house, whatever. Because what happens now is they have, it's handed down from the CDC, okay, from the WHO to the CDC, the NIH, and it floods out to any and every facility that takes any form of government money, whether it be federal or state. And that is why you see so many doctors and nurses right now that are abiding by the bullshit that's been going on in healthcare facilities since the beginning of this dumb shit. It's because they can have their funds yanked.
Right.
And so a lot of these facilities cannot survive without these government programs. Medicare, Medicaid, grant money, you know, whatever the case may be. And so they have to fall in line and they have to follow those guidelines. You know, there was just I live in Tennessee, and there was just a doctor testifying in front of our legislative body that one of the hospitals here was actually putting equipment bags, lockout, tag out equipment bags when wiring goes faulty or whatever, over patients' heads to protect staff members from infection. Now, mind you, these equipment bags, they don't have air holes. Nothing like that.
What do you mean by equipment bags? Like what's in them? Like what exactly are they?
Nothing. It's just like a giant, it comes on a huge roll in a box.
Plastic bag.
You pull it off just like the vegetable bags or whatever at the grocery store, right? It comes on a big roll, right, like that, and you pull it off, and then you put, you know, like if you have like a cautery machine or something like that, that's the electric system is shorting out. You put it in these bags, and then they put a tag on it. It's called a lockout tag out bag, where they take it out of service. Okay. And so this facility was actually putting these over patients' heads to protect staff from getting sick.
That's offensive.
I have a problem with that. And that's why, like, I am very, very vocal. I was very vocal with every doctor I've ever worked with. If I knew they were wrong, I would make sure they knew what they were wrong and why. If I saw that, I would have had an absolute come apart. But in what world is our medical system there for the patients anymore? It's not. Like,
there for big pharma.
You can't get an organ transplant unless you get vaccinated. But if you get vaccinated, then you're no longer a match with your donor. And so then they have to find a new donor. That's a problem for me. That's
such a basic inefficiency too.
You can't give blood. You can't give blood if you are jib-jabbed. they won't accept it. And so think about the amount of population that now there's going to be a blood shortage because of all the people who did get it.
So I can even attest to that myself, right? I have over the years given blood many, many times. And I mean, I get at least once a day now for the past year, probably, from the New York Blood Center about blood shortage. Your blood type is an extreme need, you know, please come donate. You get this, you get that, you get a gift card, whatever. I'm not even joking. I mean, I get it almost once a day, because I'm in the system there on the call list or whatever.
Right. And I bet you're probably a universal donor, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yep, me too. And so that's the thing is that they have intentionally created a shortage. And so when the effects of this actually start coming out full force, which is starting to happen, but hasn't hit the full expanse yet. When that happens, there is going to be such a shortage of organs, of blood, of tissue, of plasma, literally any kind of blood product, any kind of organ, whatever. I mean, think of how many people do the organ donor thing on their driver's license. Not going to be able to do that.
Do it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, the more you look into this stuff and put in perspective, it really is hard not to think that there's not some sort of population control,
100%,
ideology or you know, and again, people will say you're crazy. No, you're looking too much into it, whatever. I mean, I've said on the show many times, how many coincidences do I have to point out before you start maybe even just entertaining the idea that it could be a possibility?
Right.
You know?
Do you think, and I'll butcher the name, do you think there'll be a, what is it, Nuremberg trial?
Nuremberg, yes.
2.0?
Do I think that will ever happen? The answer is no. And here's why. Because we are currently and have been since 71 under the Biological Weapons Convention. And basically what that was, it was all the member nations of the UN got together and said, okay, we're not going to manufacture bioweapons. We're not going to do it. If we do, we will tell you where our labs are at, what we're manufacturing. But here's a couple kickers. Number one, there is zero enforcement arm for this. Okay, so it's great on paper that they made this biological weapons treaty. However, there's no enforcement arm. And number two, it's kind of like asking like Dr. Fauci to investigate himself.
Right. It's like the state is going to appoint a board by the state to investigate the state. Right.
Like if I'm a nefarious actor and I'm going to set up weapons labs and create all of these biological toxins, which are being introduced on a regular basis to us now, like I'm going to go, okay, Janet, bad girl, smack my hand and fine me $5,000. That's not going to happen. And so in, I think it was 2019, there were two member nations of the UN that said, okay, this is kind of lacking, like it doesn't talk about vaccinations. It doesn't talk about manipulation or, what's it called?
It'll come to you.
All right, we lose our train of thought all the time.
You know what Fauci denied that they were gain of function.
It's only gain of function of concern now.
So you know,
we
they
just
said
changed definitions.
We should put like gain of function and whatever included in this terminology, and we should redefine this to make it very much more specific than it is now. And guess what? Unanimously shot down.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. And so we are already under that. They've already been in breach of not only the Nuremberg codes, but also Geneva Convention. And I will tell you why. Because in the Geneva Convention, they outlawed the use of mustard gas as a biological in warfare. And so after that was signed, okay, we're not going to use mustard gas anymore because it's neurotoxic and it has all these issues and whatever. So, okay, good. We're not going to do that. And so when they did the Operation Paperclip, they brought 2 of the German scientists over. They put them at Yale and at Harvard, my favorite place. And these 2 creatures came up with the first chemotherapy treatments, which was from mustard nitrogen, aka mustard gas. And that is how the United States got their first chemotherapy program.
That is interesting. In my opinion, too, like a lot of those agreements and whatnot, they don't really mean jack shit. And look, I think the Constitution is great. I think the Declaration of Independence is great. But I think I've said it before. It's like that doesn't mean shit unless people actually believe in it. Enforce it and believe in it. Right. And right now you see things like that are going away. Actually, I watched a video recently about the war in Iraq in 2003. It's kind of in regards to this and how they I think it was maybe Mosul or one of those places where they had a gigantic battle against like insurgents there. And we deployed like white phosphorus in the battle. Now, Captain, I'm sure you played Call of Duty. Right, white phosphorus is one of the special things they call it. Right? That is a chemical weapon. That is a chemical attack that is outlawed, I think, by the Geneva Conventions. The United States military used that in battle against insurgents in Iraq, and then they claim no, it was really just to like clear the area. We didn't use it as a weapon, or they came up with some bullshit excuse. So please, that doesn't mean anything.
Which is what they always do. And think about, I'm sure you guys saw it when the Gates Foundation was giving a talk to the Pentagon, and this was like 2015. And they had come up with this new vaccination that basically will change somebody's DNA and make them non-radicalized. And they're trying to sell this to the Pentagon officials. And of course, the Pentagon officials is like, okay, so if you're using this on the battlefield and in, warfare situations, like, how do you know that this gene it is affected and it's changed and whatever? And they're like, oh, well, you should really do like a CT scan. And they're like, okay, again, you're on the battlefield. Like, how is this going to be proven to work? And so this was used in a guinea pig scenario, just like they're doing now, which everybody who has been jibber jabbered is in a clinical trial. You are clinical trials, just like the whole Monkey Pox thing is also a clinical trial, because there have been no studies completed. And so they're doing the same thing during battle. And like I said, this was back in like 2015 where he's giving this talk. And it's like, okay, so they know biologicals and the use of mustard gas or VX or, whatever the case may be, they know and they are using it, and our military uses it. And our healthcare industry uses them. But who's going to hold them accountable other than other countries? Because unfortunately here, we're not allowed to sue or protect ourselves. But I did see where I think it was in the UK, I want to say, in the European Union somewhere. They are actually suing like the NIH over there because of hidden data and all of the deaths that have occurred, and also the amount of people, which there's lawsuits going on here as well, in mass numbers where people were let go for not getting
Yeah.
jib
Yeah,
jab
that I mean, which is
That's
the most
only going to get
insane
worse for them. But yeah,
thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting. It's interesting to, as we move on here in the next few years to see kind of just what happens in general with
Yeah.
all that, right?
Right.
As you know, I heard Hotep Jesus call it this. He calls it the vacations, right? Like people who got their vacations, what
Right.
happens to them in the next 10 years?
Right.
Yeah, we'll be here to talk about it and whatnot.
Yeah.
Right.
To
pulling up the receipt.
yeah, exactly. To circle back a little bit to monkeypox real quick, like Jen Psaki. I think
Circle back, Chucky.
Yes, I think.
And you know
missing,
what? I miss her too.
I do miss her. She was much better than Karine Jean Pierre. I'll give her that one. She was a formidable opponent. So I think one of the things missing from the whole monkeypox thing, right, is of course it's basically spread from gay men having sex with each other, such like many diseases have before.
But is it really monkeypox?
Well, that's what they're saying, at least, right? My point was going to be that we have gay friends, right? Like, let's use our buddy Gary, right? Gary is married. He's a nice guy. I'm going to assume Gary is very faithful to his husband. They're good. They're good. They're good, right? How else could you get an STD like this unless you're fucking around? Yeah. So this sort of disease is going to not only affect that category of people, but promiscuous people.
I was just gonna say, and think about this, pushing the gay trans agenda, okay, and pushing it into the schools and pushing it into the streets and into parades and the whole 9 yards, and Lord forgive me if I offend anyone, because it's not meant to be that way, but the level of promiscuity in that community, I could tell you, is extremely high, because working in healthcare, I see it. Okay. And so if you think about the depopulation agenda, right? What better way than to cram all this into society and be like, it's okay. And, make all the kids that way and whatever. And it's okay to have, Teen Vogue talking about like anal sex and whatever to young kids. And so they're pushing this agenda out there into the community, saying that this is normal behavior and everybody basically go be promiscuous. You don't have to be faithful. Families don't matter. Relationships don't matter. That furthers their agenda on what they want to accomplish, because if you are infected with things like that, HIV, stuff like that, and there's been a lot of talk about blood samples that have been taken from vacationed people, and how it's mimicking like HIV. Okay, so then you've got Kappa C sarcoma, things like that also come with, nodules, bumps, whatever. You have pneumonia complications. You have all of those things that have been related to or discussed with the AIDS pandemic, that happened in the 80s.
With Dr. Fauci.
Right, with Dr. Fauci, and the use of AZT, which again made people die. Okay. But that's part of their agenda, because if they can shove this and normalize this behavior and put it out into the public, that furthers their cause and what they want to do as far as population goes.
Yeah, no, it makes maniacal sense,
But
be experimental.
Too, yeah.
Go but be experimental. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, along that same lines, I don't know if you guys have noticed it or not, with the amount of, not just on TV commercials, but also like on iHeartRadio, because I listen to iHeartRadio all the time. But it is commercials for brand new since the pandemic, mind you, drugs that came out to prevent HIV, wink, wink, and the development of all these new HIV medications and stuff like that after pushing this behavior out into the public. So they're kind of married together.
Yeah.
The whole
a lot of those
agenda
things are
with the
promoted as
yeah.
safety nets, right? I've even
Yeah.
heard Dave Smith make this point. It's, wouldn't think he would, but like the overturning of Roe versus Wade and Roe versus Wade originally is almost like the linchpin behind like hookup culture and promiscuousness over the past 50 years. Like if you don't have that ultimate get out of jail free card, you perhaps might not behave in that sort of manner.
Right.
And yes, those things all are kind of intertwined in some way or another.
Yeah. And so if they're pushing the narrative right now that this is a gay disease, which they're doing, just like they did with HIV, it's no different than what happened in the early 80s. So if they're pushing this as a gay man disease, right? To me, it is not what they're saying it is. This is not the previously known disease called Monkey Pox. This is something else that's occurring in the community. And like I said,
the China virus
very well mimics different infections that you get from HIV. So yeah,
it'll be interesting. We'll keep an eye on it. Like gain of function has
So-
occurred, right? I don't have any proof, but the gain of function has been going on.
Right.
Well, Ron Paul has finally got a hearing August 3rd to talk about gain of function research.
Oh, Rand Paul.
good.
Rand Paul,
Yeah.
sorry. So let me pick you guys' brains a little bit on some monkeypox theory that I am kind of formulating. We're not talking about who's going to get sick and it being a pandemic.
Right.
The last election, there was a pandemic, COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and we were heavily pushed upon mail-in ballots, mail-in voting, vote by mail, blah, 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 blah. Writing's on the wall. The red wave is coming. An overcorrection is coming. Monkeypox is, by CDC standards, YouTube, a serious pandemic that is taking place. But these blue cities in states like New York and California and Illinois are saying, oh, this is a pandemic. This is going to get really bad. We have to get ahead of this.
Or state of emergency.
A state emergency. I kind of just feel like these states see the writing on the walls. Like the establishment has to hold everything together. But if New York and California go red, completely red across the board in these elections, people are really going to wake up to the bullshit. Right. So in these big states that they just can't allow to go red, we have to make this pandemic as deadly as possible so we could get mail-in ballots.
Maybe protect the industry of mail-in voting, right? Like, oh, well, because there are, there's attempts to reform that and get rid of that now. Well, we can't do that now because there's a whole nother form of, like a virus being spread by contact, right? And what do? You contact pieces of paper when you vote. So it's best if you don't go in person somewhere and touch the same piece. But again, we're just diving down the rabbit hole
in here
with catalyst. But yeah, I mean, maybe who knows? We'll see, right? Because in a couple months, we'll see what because we're talking about this now, right? Like, could this be a spoiler warning? What is it? 6 months from now, or whatever in November, we'll see. Because when they start saying the shit, we'll roll the tape. And then, we'll be like, were we really fucking conspiracy theorists or were we just ahead of the curve?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? There was a doctor. I was watching a video from her today. She was a WHO whistleblower. And she talked about the amount, which I have known this for a while, but the amount of things that they have put into the pipeline already that they have rebranded as something else that they will continually release on a regular basis to keep us in continual mask and lockdown mode and vaccination, because vaccination money is big business. The greasing the palms of the FDA is big business, always has been. And so this is the way the industry has gone ever since the beginning of the vaccine industry. It's huge money to come up with these things. And so this lady was talking about all the different stuff that they're rebranding, renaming, re-releasing into the public with, of course, the propaganda and fear behind it, that everyone's going to become infected and die unless you get this vaccine and you mask and you lock down and whatever. And she was talking about, which I'm assuming you guys are aware of, the SPARS document. Have you ever heard of that?
Explain. Sounds familiar.
The SPARS thing was another one of those, like Agenda 2020, that stuff. It was a simulation about a SPARS pandemic that's going to come about, whatever. Anyway, she's talking about this, and she says they have at the WHO their own, like SPARS type exercise,
like a war
documentation.
Game sort of thing. Right,
yes.
Yeah.
That they have their own like documentation of, basically we're going to release this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And she said it is supposed to go up until 2028.
Honestly, she's cutting it short. Honestly, why not go forever if you're gonna, if your goal is to usher in totalitarianism?
But if you're looking at it from the lens of the depopulation aspect, most of your population will be deceased by that time.
Mm-hmm. Well, they've done the damage that will occur in years to come.
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not ruling it out. I just don't. The more they try and do things like this, the more people start to wake up, right? Like there are, of course, people like us who are way ahead of the curve, right?
Right.
And you're never going to get one over on us. But like I said this a while ago when it was just two shots, right? 2 vacations. Right. We said it was going to be more, right? And most people did.
It always is.
And we had an episode called Ladies Night, I think it was called, where we had 2 friends on. They're not political. And I'm like, look, like as normal people who are not in the political process, are you going to sign up for a vacation like 3 times a year for the rest of your life forever?
Right.
No, and most people are not going to just do that. Right. Eventually, everyone has their breaking point or when they hit critical mass, when they have a thought finally appears in their mind. Hey, I just got 10 vacations in a row. Something's wrong. This doesn't make sense anymore. I don't see it working. Just go back to what we were kind of talking about at the beginning. I think eventually free critical thinking people will win out in the end. But
will it really? Because they have done this with every vaccination that's on the federal schedule. Like the polio, and it used to be oral polio, and then oh my god, the oral stuff was making people sick, so let's do injections. Now there's 5 kids have to get 5 polio. They have to get 5 DTaP, they have to get Prevnar, they have to get all these things. And so when I worked at the teaching facility, teaching hospital, we were a reporting agency for the state. And so they rolled out the varicella vaccination, right? And they were like, okay, this stuff is fantastic. You only have to get 1 and it'll stop you from getting it. You will never get chickenpox. Okay. So they roll this out, and then we start seeing chickenpox after chickenpox after chickenpox, and like this massive like uptick. And then it was, okay, wait, I got it. I got this great idea. Let's do 2, because 2 will definitely stop it and no one will get it. So they roll out the second one, make it mandatory in our state, and cases exploded. And so then they're like, okay, well, I want you guys to like record, and like when people get vaccinated or if they come in with it, like record how many spots they got, and we'll put them into categories and then send it to the state, and then we'll send it to the federal government. They have done that with literally every vaccination that they have rolled out. Same thing when they shoved the HPV vaccine on everybody. And it was like, oh, you have to get this because girls, you won't get HPV ever again. So this is safe and effective. And it's a series of 3. And from what we observed just from that, which is there are multiple strands. There's like 487 strands of HPV.
487 fucking shots.
3 of them
Vacations,
are severe, right? That can actually cause cervical cancer and genital warts and whatever. So it was like when they made this series mandatory, we saw like an 85% increase in the amount of cervical cancer in young girls because they started this vaccination at like 10 years old.
It's interesting, man. I mean, I'm not I'm not going to say like I'm against vaccines now, but I will say that the past couple of years has definitely now made me just at least think about it or be critical, right? Where before I would have never even thought about it or questioned it. The doctor says you should do this and you should do this, right? I'm not at the level because I just don't understand enough about them or about the science to be like, oh, they're all evil or oh, they're all great. I can't really say, but I'm at least now at a point where like, I'm not going to just blindly trust anything that comes out of that ever again. You know, I will try and do my little, dumb research and try and figure it out for myself. So again, to go back to my point, I think a lot of people are probably like me, right? Where they used to just accept everything that the doctor told them. And now they're not an anti-vaxxer, but they now are like, oh man, I better like put some critical thought into like any decision like that that I make. Like I just had a baby and I make sure that I check exactly what the fuck they're giving my baby when I go to the doctor's meeting. It doesn't mean I'm against any of it or anything like that, but I'm bet your ass I'm doing the research and whatnot and making sure I know what is going on. So I'm not just sitting there like, oh, whatever. Dose them up. Fuck it. Who gives a fuck?
I'm going to give you a little piece of info. Okay. And this is something that everybody, if you've never seen this, you need to go look this up online. You're going to go to cdc.gov and you're going to type in vaccine excipient summary. A little list will pop up at the bottom. It says Pink Book vaccine excipient summary. If you click on that, these are extra ingredients that are in each and every vaccination that is on a federal schedule.
Aluminum.
Yes. And so you will see heavy metals, heavy detergents, you will see antibiotics, you will see dog cells, pig cells, bovine cells, you will see literally all kinds of absolutely everything. And if you don't know what something is, you can literally look up each and every word that's on there that you don't understand. But these are added ingredients that are extra to the active ingredients in a vaccination. And this
but
is
don't forget to trust
everybody
your
should
CDC.
look at. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really, I didn't know anything about this, but yeah, I have something from the CDC right here. It says excipients. This is from the CDC website. Excipients included in U.S. vaccines or U.S. vacations by vacation, in addition to weakened or killed disease antigens, such as weakened, killed, or parts of viruses or bacteria. Vacations contain very small amounts of other ingredients, excipients. Some excipients are added to a vaccine for a specific purpose. So, I mean, this is literally from the CDC website. I don't want to go into too much because now we're getting into the realm of YouTube's going to kick us out. For going into details of this. But it's interesting. I think regardless of anything, it is good for each person to just look into what you're putting in your body. Whether it's Buffalo Trace whiskey or whether it's the COVID-19 vaccine.
Or Screwball peanut butter whiskey.
Right. He likes that. He likes that shit.
No, I like that chocolate bird dog stuff.
I've not had that, but I will tell you, if you like Reese cups, which I like peanut butter and chocolate, if you have Screwball whiskey and you mix it with some Yoo-hoo, oh my
Jesus.
Lord.
Ugh.
But I'm
A lot of
personally,
chemicals.
I'm a beer drinker. Yeah, so I like beer.
All right.
Okay, fair enough.
But I think we'll wrap it up in a minute here. I kind of want to we'll end it, Cap, on a tweet of the week.
We only got the one though.
Yeah, we got the one, so I think it's a good spot to end it. So, Janet, we usually will pick out either a really enlightening tweet someone made or just a really crazy or stupid one someone made, and then we'll just read it out, laugh, and everybody will comment on it. Yeah. So we only have one. It was kind of a little bit of a quiet week on Twitter.
Yeah, nothing stood out to me, man.
Yeah, which is rare. So we had this one here, and I hate to punch down, but I did on this one. This is from K Power. And she goes, I was going to work in my hospital and another male nurse got on the elevator with me. He was holding a large insulated coffee cup that said, "Don't tread on me." I got chills of fear. It shouldn't be like this. Frowny face. I had a really good tweet here, which I ratioed the fuck out of her. And I said, and I put a picture of a therapy session going on here. And, said, and where did the person whose coffee cup says he wants to be left alone hurt you? I mean,
that's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we're at.
You're right. It shouldn't be like this. You shouldn't be such a pussy.
Amen to that. That was the perfect wording, Ben. That is again, put on your big girl or big boy pants. And learn to cope, for fuck's sake. Yeah.
I mean, like,
and this is somebody who works at a hospital. Did it say she was a nurse or no?
I think yes.
She was on the elevator with a nurse.
She said another nurse.
Okay, so my cousin is a nurse. Janet, you were in the medical field. Mm-hmm. You guys literally and figuratively see some
everything
shit go down, from shit to blood to guts to literal war crimes that happen in the city streets that you have to clean up now. Somebody's hands gone, foot's gone, eyes gone, and you're literally putting eyeballs back in the heads. His coffee cup is what rattles your ass.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say you are in the wrong profession.
Yeah.
If that coffee cup was so triggering to you, then you should probably retire right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also just a bit insane that a symbol, the "Don't Tread on Me" symbol, which literally stands for please just leave me alone. Right. Like, I don't want you to come over here and tell me what to do and trample on my rights and my personal, autonomy and whatnot. That offends someone. Right. And it really is. It's insane. And it's also very telling of like the woke and the leftist ideology that has like taken root in society nowadays, because like they're actually threatened by them not being able to like rule over you,
to trample on you,
subjugate you. Right. That's a threat of violence to them.
Right. But you're not allowed to intervene and interfere in their life choices. But by golly, they should be able to do that to you.
Yeah. So it was a stupid tweet and it was funny, but I thought it was also very telling at the same time. And it's also my response is why I ratioed her. I got like 2 to 1 likes on my comment that she did on her original.
It went viral. I got 2 likes.
Yeah. So it was a win. A win for the good guys on the Twitter wars for the day. So let's wrap it up. Janet, why don't you shout out your show? Like, where can everybody find you? Where can they
hashtags, handles?
Well, duh. You can find us on the Patriot Podcast Network on Roku TV. Both of our shows, along with lots of other amazing content creators. So head on over to Roku TV, check out Patriot Podcast Network, and make sure you hit the little star button up there and give it a 5-star review too. Very important. You can find Deplorable Nation on every podcast platform, as well as Alt Media United and actualactivist.com with an S on the end. You can also find my personal account, Deplorable Janet, on Instagram and on Twitter at account number 6. You can find me at NoJanet, KNOW.
Awesome.
That's it.
All right, Doom Nation and Deplorable Nation, you guys, the worlds collided today. The nation got a little bit bigger. Janet, thank you for coming on. The conversation with you was awesome. You're one of the biggest troopers on the Patriot podcast. You're just putting up nonsense, but you're extremely knowledgeable, and it was a great time having you on.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. It was an honor.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody.
So Doom Nation, I hope you got anything, Skeggs?
Nope, that's it.
Doom Nation, I hope you guys enjoyed another episode. As always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. You can check us out on our link tree. It gives you everywhere you can find us. It's a 2doommen/linktree, right? .com.
Linktree.com/2doommen. Yeah, that's usually my part. Sorry.
Yeah.
And yeah, so interesting week. Hopefully we'll have on next week. We're going to keep going with the Patriot Podcast Network. Hopefully we'll have on Alex Abernathy.
Exciting.
Yeah, so we'll be talking to him. And then at some point we'll be out ourselves in Tennessee, in Nashville.
Yes.
It looks like it's shaping up that we will be doing a podcast in Nashville. So
fabulous.
That's going to be a fun time. So Doom Nation, you have a lot to look forward to. We'll see you guys next week. Adios.